The story does not begin with victory parades or shattered flags, but with silence. November 1918 settled over Germany not as closure, but as an unresolved wound. As the defeated armies withdrew into their homeland, a dangerous narrative took root among soldiers and civilians alike. Germany had not been defeated on the battlefield, it had been betrayed. Politicians, liberals, socialists, internal enemies had stabbed the nation in the back. This myth, born in humiliation, would outlive the war itself. The Treaty of Versailles transformed that humiliation into a permanent condition. Germany was saddled with an astronomical reparations bill of £6.6 billion, a sum designed not merely to compensate, but to cripple. Its army was reduced to 100,000 men, its air force eliminated, its navy gutted. What had once been a continental power was forced into military impotence, its sovereignty monitored, its pride publicly dismantled. At the same time, the collapse of the Austro-Hungarian Empire left millions of ethnic Germans stranded outside the new borders, scattered across fragile states like Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. Europe, outwardly at peace, now contained a geopolitical time bomb, one built from resentment, grievance, and unresolved identity. The Weimar Republic inherited this poisoned legacy. Though technically the largest democracy in Europe, it existed in a permanent state of emergency. Political assassinations became routine. Governments rose and fell in months. The crisis reached a breaking point in 1923 when hyperinflation devoured the economy from the inside out. Prices doubled in days. Savings accumulated over lifetimes became worthless paper. Middle-class stability evaporated, replaced by desperation and rage. In that vacuum, radical voices did not need to persuade, they merely needed to point at enemies. Adolf Hitler's first attempt to seize power through violence failed. The beer hall putsch collapsed in chaos, and he was sentenced to prison. But the punishment was brief, and the consequences were catastrophic. During his confinement, Hitler wrote Mein Kampf, transforming personal grievance into ideology and failure into doctrine. When he emerged, he had learned the lesson history would regret most. Power could be seized legally from within the system meant to restrain it. Even before Hitler's rise, Germany's military elite had already decided that Versailles would not be obeyed. Through a secret treaty with the Soviet Union signed in 1923, German officers trained on foreign soil, designing tanks and experimenting with mobile warfare beyond the reach of international inspectors. The defeat of 1918 had not killed German militarism, it had driven it underground. When Hitler was appointed chancellor in January 1933, the transformation was swift and merciless. Democratic safeguards were dismantled one by one. By August 1934, Hitler had fused the offices of chancellor and president, declaring himself Führer. Opposition vanished. Loyalty became law. For the next 3 years, the regime focused on stabilizing the economy, launching massive public works like the Autobahn to absorb unemployment and project an image of renewal. But beneath this surface recovery ran a different current, a vast secret rearmament program that devoured resources and violated every clause of Versailles. In 1935, secrecy gave way to defiance. Hitler openly announced the existence of the Luftwaffe and expanded the army to 300,000 men. Britain and France protested weakly, unwilling to risk confrontation. This hesitation reinforced Hitler's central belief: the democracies lacked the will to stop him. Germany's new military doctrine was designed explicitly to avoid the stagnation of World War I. It emphasized speed, coordination, and shock. Armored spearheads supported by aircraft, smashing through defenses before an enemy could respond. Blitzkrieg was not just a tactic, it was a philosophy of domination. The Spanish Civil War provided the proving ground. Beginning in 1936, Hitler sent tanks, aircraft, and the elite Condor Legion to support Franco's forces. Cities like Guernica were obliterated from the air, civilians reduced to experimental data. The results confirmed Hitler's assumptions. Britain and France watched, protested, and did nothing. To Berlin, the message was clear: resistance was theatrical, not real. By 1938, the barriers fell one after another. Austria was annexed without a single shot. The Sudetenland was surrendered by Czechoslovakia under the illusion of peace.
Each success fed the myth of inevitability. To eliminate the final strategic risk, Hitler signed the Non-Aggression Pact with the Soviet Union on August 23, 1939, secretly agreeing to divide Poland. War was no longer a possibility, it was scheduled. The invasion of Poland began with a lie. The Gleiwitz incident, a staged attack on a German radio station disguised as Polish aggression, provided the pretext. On September 1, 1939, German forces surged forward. Within weeks, Poland collapsed. Blitzkrieg worked exactly as designed. Speed, terror, and coordination shattered resistance before it could organize. The victory hardened the belief that Germany's military machine was unstoppable, that destiny itself was on their side. The campaign in the West seemed to confirm it. France fell. The Maginot Line, once the symbol of defensive certainty, was bypassed and rendered meaningless. Europe lay stunned. Only Britain remained. Operation Sea Lion, the planned invasion, depended on air superiority. The Luftwaffe attacked airfields and radar stations, seeking to blind and paralyze. But the air war exposed a flaw no previous campaign had revealed. When bombing shifted towards cities like London, aiming to crush morale, the effect was the opposite. Britain's resolve hardened. Losses mounted. The invasion was postponed, then abandoned. For the first time, the German war machine had failed to achieve its objective quickly. The myth cracked. Yet Hitler's true ambition lay eastward. Leibnicism was not rhetoric, it was obsession. On June 22, 1941, Operation Barbarossa unleashed the largest invasion in history. Over 3 million German soldiers crossed into Soviet territory. The surprise was devastating. Entire Soviet armies were encircled and destroyed. Millions of prisoners were taken. Victory seemed inevitable. Reality intervened. Distance swallowed momentum. Roads dissolved into mud. Supply lines stretched beyond calculation. Winter arrived without mercy. What Berlin had envisioned as a short, decisive campaign became a war of exhaustion against space, climate, and human endurance. The optimism of maps collapsed under the weight of reality. Stalingrad marked the turning point. In January 1943, the German Sixth Army surrendered. The defeat was not only military, it was psychological. For the first time, the word defeat entered public consciousness. Faith in leadership eroded. The illusion of control evaporated. To sustain the war, Albert Speer reorganized the economy into total war. Production surged, but at an unspeakable cost. Millions of forced laborers were dragged from occupied territories, worked to death in factories and mines. Resistance inside Germany existed, but was crushed. The White Rose students distributed pamphlets calling for moral awakening and were executed. The July 20th plot to assassinate Hitler failed, triggering mass arrests and executions that reinforced terror through collective punishment. When the war ended, the reckoning was incomplete. The Allies imposed denazification, demilitarization, decentralization, and democratization. But pragmatism softened justice. In the West, former Nazis quietly resumed positions of power. For years, silence prevailed. Guilt was unspoken. That silence finally broke in the 1960s when a younger generation demanded answers. Germany confronted its past with a severity unmatched elsewhere. Holocaust denial became illegal. Education became mandatory. Memory was institutionalized. Stolperstein, small brass stones embedded in sidewalks, forced citizens to bow down and read the names of the dead, turning remembrance into a physical act. Germany's history is not just a record of collapse and catastrophe. It is a warning. It shows how humiliation breeds resentment, how silence enables atrocity, and how myths, once embraced, can carry entire nations towards destruction.